Hello everyone, Meteorologist Carly Smith here. I had a timer out, but I went ahead and just wanted to get started. So I hope everybody is having a terrific Thursday out there. We have a lot to talk about. I'm trying to share this to my Facebook page, Carly Smith WX. Everything's been a little slow this morning, but we're here, we're live, and I thank everyone for joining and watching as always. So make sure you posted your questions if you have any so I can get to them, and then we're going to get started, and it's going to be a great video. So I hope that you've stuck with us and you're ready for some interesting weather to talk about. So we've got our live, we've got our volume. I am going to look at the comments. Let's see, we need more water for the lakes. We need is there high wind probabilities for the area? That was from Guts Victor. Yes, I'll talk about when. Can you postpone the severe weather for another day? I fly in from Costa Rica on Friday. So Friday, it depends on what time you arrive. So Amy, if you're watching this live, and then what about Alice? Be careful. And then Saturday for Ricardo. We'll get to everything that y'all have asked in the previous question now as we get started. So the first graphic I want to start with is the one that I posted to social media, but yes, so severe. I hope it's on here. I don't think it is because I switched computers to do this, so. Here we go, 3-day severe event. So this is the one I want to show you. We'll pull it up now. Hello again. So 3-day severe event, where did it go? Oh, it's still up there. Okay, good. It's off of my computer. Sorry, this feels really scatterbrained, but that's social media and live TV, whether that's on the internet or on TV, you know. So our 3-day outlook, what we have going on is we've got a risk of severe thunderstorms to our north today. So I'm not worried about severe weather here in the coastal bend today. I get a little worried as we look ahead to Friday and Saturday. And so we'll break down the timing and everything you need to know. But basically what we have going on, here's our satellite radar right now. Computer is loading so slow. I probably have it overwhelmed with too many graphics because I just build and build and build and I don't think about the consequences. So right now there's not a lot of storm development going on, which is typical. It's still 1027. We've got clouds in our region. We do have some showers that are developing, it looks like, over kind of Matagorda Bay, San Antonio Bay. So that's an interesting little trough feature. Actually, that's part of the low-level jet that's probably kicking up and then interacting with land where some of those winds are at the strongest. So let's go back to the Texas view. It's not going to match up perfectly because I moved it around. But so here's Texas. Here's our cold front. What this cold front does is it comes off the Rocky Mountains. What it wants to do in order for storms to develop, that cold front needs moisture to be pushed up through Texas and into the plains and the Midwest. So what it does is it taps in, or it picks up that low-level jet as the front is moving across the Rocky Mountains. We've got the dry air mixing with the moist air, and that causes the wind to really ramp up in the lower levels of the atmosphere, closer to that sea surface and down at our surface levels, which is why our winds were around 20 miles per hour. That wind you're seeing on this graphic, right here, out of the south, 39 miles per hour. That's still above our heads in the atmosphere, but it's where those clouds are. So you'll notice the clouds kind of racing with the wind. And so that's really what we're getting is the low-level jets picking up. It's creating breezy conditions down at the surface, sustained winds 25 to 30, or 15 to 25 miles per hour, gusts 35 miles per hour. So that's today. We're breezy, the low-level jet is kicking. That low-level jet, where the low-level jet mixes with the cold front and the area of low pressure to our north, that is where the greatest risk of severe weather is going to be today. And so, I didn't mean to hit that button. We zoom this back out to Texas. And what you see is, as I mentioned, where the cold front and the low all meet up, that's going to be more so for eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri today. Dallas and Austin also have a chance for a few strong to severe thunderstorms. It's more that slight to marginal risk, and then further south, we're farther away from kind of that triple point where you have the strong winds coming out of the south, and then the winds coming off the Rocky Mountains merging, and then the low creating the spin in the atmosphere as well. We're farther away from that, so we're gonna not have as much forcing in our region. And while yes, there is a chance for a spotty shower, not concerned with severe weather today. Now, tomorrow, the front is drifting further south. So we do increase our severe weather risk to a level 2 slight risk for San Antonio to Houston, right there along I-10 and I-35, south of Waco, and even through Austin. So that's kind of the target zone for the potential for some of the worst severe weather. There's a few caveats. We'll be looking toward Laredo. So if you're looking at a radar tomorrow afternoon and into the evening, especially. So tomorrow evening, if you're looking at a radar, you want to look for any storms that are developing toward Laredo. If we see rain starting to develop around Laredo and we see those storms strengthening, those are the storms that will move into the coastal bend. So that's the caveat. Now, granted, B County and Live Oak County, so George West, Beeville, those areas, y'all could see some storms develop along the cold front that's going to be hanging out around San Antonio tomorrow. If that front drifts further south, you'll tap into the strongest severe thunderstorms that are with that front. So that's why your risk of severe weather is greater than the rest of us. And that'll make more sense when I show it on Futurecast. Then finally on Saturday, we're watching as the front slides south, the dry air coming off the Sierra Madres in Mexico, mixing with our humid air in the coastal bend, right there along that Interstate 35 corridor between San Antonio and Laredo. And then those storms could move in to Corpus Christi overnight and into Sunday morning. So a lot of little nuances. I hope that I can make it make sense for y'all. Here's an easy timeline for the next 48 hours or so. So you know when I'm eyeing, I've made another easy timeline that we'll discuss also. So this is the bar graph version. Overall, just widely scattered activity into tomorrow morning. Should be rain showers, more so than thunderstorms. Friday night into Saturday morning, that's when I'm a little bit more concerned with a risk for some strong, possibly severe thunderstorms that could move into the coastal bend. So Saturday morning, everyone watching, Saturday morning, Friday night, be weather aware. Make sure you check the latest forecast from our 3 News team. I'm actually going to be off, so meteorologist Kristen Walla will be in tomorrow morning. Give her a follow, search for her name on Facebook or whatever platform you're watching. And then tomorrow night, Chief Meteorologist Alan Holt will be in as well, and he'll give you the latest, everything you need to know for Friday night heading into Saturday. He's also in tonight, so no need to worry. The whole team has you covered. We will be here, and we will be posting whether we're home or away, as always, because we love and live and breathe weather and meteorology. So let me go back to the live and make sure I'm not missing any important questions from y'all. So we've got 9. And make sure I'm not missing any important questions from y'all. Yes. Everything that I've said, the cutoff low is in the upper levels of the atmosphere. That's totally different. I'm focusing on the surface level. It's hard to get into all the nuances, Zach. I'll break it down in this live. Okay, Paradise Event Rentals unit set up downtown this Saturday at the St. Patrick's Day Festival. Are we going to get rain? Okay, we'll focus on the St. Patrick's Day Festival. Ryland says New Braunfels, San Antonio Riverwalk. Will it be a washout for Saturday? Okay, everything's going to be broken down here. Okay, so this is what we have. Cold front. This is the stationary front. So it's stalling Friday morning north of San Antonio. North of San Antonio, we've got the stationary front. I placed a low where the stationary front meets the dry line, and I developed a cold front. As that low develops, it kind of is what pushes the stationary front south into Friday and Saturday. The reason why our forecast change day to day or shift to shift has to do with how the high resolution models are handling things. And so both the HRRR and the IBM, which are high resolution models, are shifting the front farther south into Friday. So that's why storm chances are going up a little bit on Friday. The cutoff low is in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and that is still spinning over here to the west, which is why there's snow in the Rockies and across the desert southwest. We're getting some rain. So this is our cutoff low. It's totally separate from what's happening down at the surface, and it's hard to break down the nuances in a 2 to 3 minute weather forecast. So anyway, I have the low developing along this. Think of this stationary front really is kind of extending off to the west, but it's easier to break it, or to just the way our system works. For me personally, it's easier to draw the cold front separate from the stationary front once it gets moving, and then we see another low kind of develop with the help of the dryer coming off the Sierra Madres. And so our upper level low is still up there, now kind of more over the Four Corners region, but it's going to hang out off to the west into next week, which, yes, will keep us in an unsettled pattern next week. But for the nuances of this weekend, it gets really complicated, especially now that the high-res stuff is in. And so what I see happening is there we have, essentially, this probably isn't really going to be a coastal low necessarily, but what it is going to do is we see storms developing. Kind of, it's a little bit more like a little mini dry line that's going to be south, or a trough, a surface trough is a better way to describe it as well. So that's going to allow storms to develop out west. So I'm going to go back and just go through it hour by hour. So this is today. The front is well to our north. We are seeing the dry line, and we are seeing pockets of rain developing along the dry line in the moist atmosphere, thanks to that low-level jet that's pumping up the moisture. The risk of severe weather is well to our north today. I'm not worried about it, but what we will be watching is any storms that develop along the Rio Grande, so the Texas-Mexico border there, especially near Laredo. Anything that develops there, Laredo or south, will move into the coastal bend and give us a chance of rain Friday morning. It looks like it should weaken. We're just having rain showers. Notice there's no frontal boundaries interacting with any of those showers on Friday. So they're not going to have a lot of their own energy or push necessary to keep them going very strong. So I see a weakening trend into Friday morning. But there is a chance of rain Friday morning as you're headed out the door. Now we're going to get into Friday afternoon. So Friday afternoon. Here is where the cold front is setting up. It's pushing further south than we kind of have been thinking all week, right? So if this front continues to push south of San Antonio, like it's doing right here, we're going to see more storm development along the border, along the Mexico-Texas border, especially right there in that pocket near Laredo. Any of those storms that develop. So this is what you'll want to be watching. If you're looking at the radar on Friday, what you will want to be watching we're going to zoom in. So this is Friday evening. Most of the day Friday, we're looking pretty dry, but Friday evening. Again, okay, some people asked about San Antonio and New Braunfels. So Friday afternoon, that's when storms would develop up that direction. So we're looking about 4:30, a little bit earlier than that because this has the front already pushing south. So I would say between noon and 4 p.m., a decent chance for some showers, thunderstorms, possibly severe there in San Antonio there. So here's noon. Then storms start developing, especially around 2. The cold front pushes south. But we do have some storms that stay there. But if the cold front pushes south, San Antonio is going to dry out a bit heading into Friday evening. But Friday afternoon, I would say between noon and 8 p.m. For anyone that was asking about San Antonio or New Braunfels, between noon and 8 p.m., you have the greatest risk of that strong to severe thunderstorm risk. Then, as I've been trying to mention, so for us down here, we are going to be watching how far south the cold front gets. And if anything around 5 p.m. starts developing in this area. Because what is happening is we still have the Pacific, where that cutoff low is, for everyone that's been keeping up with the weather forecast, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we've got a cutoff low over the desert southwest. That is keeping flow coming out the Pacific. That flow is coming over dry air that's associated with this mountain range right here. And so that dry air we have moist air coming this way, and then we are going to have dry air in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, especially coming this way. And where that air meets is going to be a target zone for any storm development as we head into Friday evening. So there we have those storms developing. As I mentioned, the target zone is kind of Laredo and south. Anything that develops there does have a decent chance of moving into the coastal bend. Now, as the front continues to push south, the farther south this front makes it, the better the opportunity is going to be for a strong to severe thunderstorm to ride the front. They like to ride the fronts as they develop into a line or a cluster of storms and push into the region that is along the front. So I don't know why this won't let me clear everything I've drawn. Here we go. So this storm into Friday morning is something we will be watching very closely for this scenario to play out. Now, granted, overnight we have something known convective inhibition, which when you lose the sunlight, you get less heat that creates rising air necessary for thunderstorms to develop. But we get a lot of heat during the day, and so those storms can kind of fuel themselves. So essentially, if this develops into an MCS or a version of a coastal low or a coastal trough, it's going to fuel that storm and strengthen it into Saturday morning. And so Saturday morning is going to be our greatest risk for any severe weather in this region, it looks like. Then we are going to see finally the energy push the front all the way south as we head into Sunday, especially as high pressure develops to our north. So as high pressure develops, it's going to push that cooler air down the plains, push the front south through the coastal bend, but we are going to keep rain, especially if this low develops over the Gulf. We're going to keep the rain in play behind the front throughout the day on Sunday. So Saturday morning, the greatest risk. Then it looks like we get a little bit of dry time actually as we head into Saturday night into Sunday morning. The front passes through. We have another risk for thunderstorms. So it depends on how late you're going to stay out for the St. Patrick's Day festivities. And then the cooler air moves in, and we don't see as much rain heading into next week, but we are still going to be in that unsettled pattern because there is still a bit of an upper level low in play. So when I take a look, is that my vorticity map? So this is where the low is today. This is where it sets up Friday. This is where it brings the drier air off the mountains in Mexico, collides with our moisture. This is the low on Sunday. This is the low on Tuesday. So this keeps us in an unsettled pattern, yes, but at the surface we've got drier, cooler air that's also working in, that's going to work against some of this energy. But yes, we are still in an unsettled pattern that leads to rain until that upper level low finally moves off to our east. But the most rain is looking like it will be Sunday. The greatest risk for severe weather that I'm most concerned about is going to be Saturday morning. And so here's the timeline that I made, maybe. So Friday morning, we've got weakening storms, a few showers. Saturday morning, if that front makes it, especially in Nabi County, Live Oak County, or anywhere near the coastal bend, south of San Antonio, the odds of our risk of strong to severe thunderstorms into Saturday morning goes up. And that's what the latest high resolution model trends are showing. So the model we looked at on the big line, or on the big Texas map, that is the IBM in-house model. Saturday afternoon looks like we get a little bit of a break, some isolated showers. Then Sunday morning, numerous showers and a few thunderstorms are going to be possible as well as the cold front pushes south. So now, the last thing we're going to look at is the HRRR, which doesn't go all the way into Saturday, which is when all the big events are. But what I do see is today, not a whole lot of activity, right? Then, actually, let me edit this and make sure it's the latest one. Because I have it start at the time for first edition in the morning, and then sometimes it just keeps the model that matches that start time versus the current time of day. So here we have Friday tonight in a Friday morning, just some light rain showers from weakening stuff that tries to develop to our west. This is the front. So all of those storms are developing along the cold front. This same high resolution model has the front pushing south Saturday. And then we get the MCS, the cluster, mesoscale convective system, that moves through Saturday morning. Both high resolution models show that happening. I think the front stalls. It may lift back north Saturday, which is why I think that we get a little bit of dry time into Saturday afternoon. And then it finally pushes through Sunday morning when we get the high pressure that pushes the front south. So that is the breakdown. That's everything I know. Of course, the whole team's working together. We'll have all the latest information, and that's pretty much all we have. Having church bake sale Sunday morning, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Yeah, there's going to be rain. The chance of storms is going to depend on when that front does push through. I think behind the front, we're not going to have severe weather. And here's why. Let's look at the Cape. So it depends, like, are you canceling just because of some rain? Or are you canceling because of the risk of lightning? Because the risk of lightning does look like it starts to go down on Sunday. So I'm going to let this load, and I'll look at more questions. So that's from Pearl. There is going to be another push, so I think what Alan is showing, there's two different ways to interpret it. When that high pressure pushes south, there is another trough that develops to our north that kind of comes in with that cooler air. So you can't argue there is a second front that moves through, but at our surface level, there's still a lot of boundaries that are at play that are important to note, because that's what's going to keep our risk of storms in the region, is whatever's happening at the surface. That trough that develops to our north is a little bit more in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, and so I didn't focus on that in my forecast. I focused on strictly the surface activity. Okay, here's our CAPES, our convective available potential energy, which is high today, but that's not all you need for storms. You have to have wind shear, you have to have lift, which comes from the frontal boundaries, and you have to have moisture. So we have moisture, we have CAPE, We have some wind shear, but what we are lacking is a frontal boundary in our region today. So I'm not confident in much happening. You see the Cape kind of transitioning that high level of Cape overnight Friday to that target zone along the Rio Grande, and then that picks up again into Friday morning and Friday afternoon. But with the front pushing further south on Friday, so like I mentioned, the storms are going to be riding any front that develops here. So that would take them into our area Friday night and Saturday morning, as the front actually more so is a stationary front, keeping that risk in our region Friday into Saturday. It kind of hangs out in the region Saturday night, and then Sunday is when it finally gets pushed south. And so our Cape levels go down. So that's why I'm not confident in So Saturday night, we've got enough Cape maybe for a few thunderstorms, but by Sunday morning, we're really losing our Cape and our thunderstorm chances go down. So I think the risk of the lightning threat is lower Sunday morning than it will be during Saturday morning. However, rain is pretty likely on Sunday morning as that front is passing through and behind the front. So I think that answers all the questions that were asked. Here's your Sunday morning rain forecast. 9 a.m. Pretty good chance they're going to have rain. It'll probably be numerous to widely scattered, not necessarily a complete washout. Slip and slide 90s hair. Love that. So here's 8:30. And here's GFS, just to compare. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Radar, GFS. We'll let it catch up. So both models are pretty much in agreement that we're going to see some sort of rain. So the GFS does keep us rainier into next week with that cutoff low. So the GFS is more on board with that happening. The European is a little drier next week. And then the low, both have the low passing through by Thursday into Friday, so we do dry out into Friday. So that is a little bit of a difference between the two weather models. The American and the GFS is the lingering rain into next week. So those details will become clear. Let's get through the weekend before we focus too much on next week, because like I said, there is a risk of thunderstorms. These thunderstorms can produce some high wind and some hail, which could be damaging to property, and we don't want that to happen. So that is all I've got for you. I'll show you the 7-day and then we'll call it a day. It's taking forever to load, of course. But once again, I'm Meteorologist Carly Smith. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful and I answered your questions and it made sense. It is not an easy forecast by any means. I do still have lightning bolts on Sunday, but I really think Friday night into Saturday morning, and then Saturday night, maybe early Sunday mornings are best chance for lightning. Then it decreases throughout the day on Sunday. So that's all I got. Have a wonderful day, all.